Radio.
In my life there came a time when I had to make a change. You know that things just weren't right. I looked around for someone else to blame. I searched and I searched and I reached down inside. And I knew when I found there's a light I can't hide. I can be free, I can be free. I can rise above, I can be free, I can be free. I will rise.
Good afternoon, everybody. This is Dr. Duncan McCollum coming to you live from Santa Cruz, KSCO Radio. And first off, I want to say hi to my friend Mike who's tuning in. Mike, your name rings a bell. A lot of bells, because when we were kids, we used to ring the church bell at night, climbing up on the roof and having a lot of fun and waking up the neighborhood. So I always love those times. Trying not to get caught. I don't think we ever did. So I'll leave your last name out of this so you're to protect the guilty. Anyway, it's a great day here in Santa Cruz. And, I've been doing a lot of research lately, again, studying for the next book I'm putting out, the next health book, which is A New Hope for being over 60 and a particular subject there. It's a follow-up on my book, New Hope for Sciatica, followed by Turn Back Your Biological Clock, which you can find on Amazon. But I've been doing a lot of re-studying of the nervous system in the body, which is unbelievable how our body has the ability to survive and overcome incredible obstacles to do so. And as I was reading this morning through parts of the nervous system coming out of the brain down through the central nervous system, then out to all 75 trillion cells in your body, I was taking a look at something, one part of the nervous system that has to do with muscle function, voluntary control. In other words, you want to walk, you want to get up and do something, you're driving a car, all that stuff is under your volitional control, meaning it's something that you are guiding and or doing purposely. And some of the reactions that occur at a cellular level, at the neuron level, which is the nerves, then the ends of the nerves where they connect to another nerve and they send signals across a little gap, and it's called a synapse. And so just imagine this, you decide to move your arm. All right, well, you can move your arm as soon as you decide to do it, or even without doing it. But what happens is that signal goes from your brain down the nerve axons, which means their roots basically, connects with another one through a chemical response that comes out of the first nerve going across to the nerve it's communicating through. That little chemical response happens so quickly and you move your arm, and then you stop moving your arm, and the little chemical goes back to its mother nerve. And it's, that's just one simple thing about how quickly our body operates. We have 75 trillion to 100 trillion cells in our body. These cells are all doing 60 million things per minute. And so that's a lot, our bodies are phenomenal. And when we take a look at dis-ease, which means no longer at ease, we have a tendency to group the word together to mean to one word, disease, without space between. But dis-ease just simply means a body that's no longer at ease. And so if you take a look at this, most dis-eases are described, their name is made up based on what the problem is. Myalgia. Well, algia means discomfort or pain, and my is for muscle. So myalgia means muscle pain. Arthritis. Arth means joint, itis means inflammation of. So we've got arthritis. Nobody wants to hear that they have arthritis. There's many different degrees of arthritis and many different kinds. What I was studying today was having to do with an enzyme that's in our digestive system. And it's a vasodilating system, and it dilates the blood vessels in our digestive system. And it's a protein-based enzyme. And this thing is found to be very helpful in things like osteoarthritis. Now, how many people have osteoarthritis? Millions of Americans do. One of the number one ways to cover up the pain from osteo, which means bone, arthritis. So it's kind of a repetitive word. Osteo means bone, and then arth means joint, and itis. So it means degeneration and inflammation of the joints in your spine. How many of you have been told that you have some kind of osteoarthritis or arthritis? The most common one that we get is called osteoarthritis. And I'm making a point here because there's a lot of things that cause inflammation in a joint, arthritis. And if it stays there long enough, just if you put solvent on your hand and you wash it off immediately, it wouldn't do much damage. But if you left that solvent on your hand for hours and hours and hours, maybe started rubbing it against some material and let it be in the sun and other elements, pretty soon it would eat a raw hole in your flesh. Well, that's basically what happens to our joints and our body when they get arthritis or inflammation. And we'll go into what the different inflammations can be in a little bit, because there are solutions out there that you aren't hearing about. If you look up osteoarthritis on PubMed right now, you're going to find out that they're not exactly sure what causes it, nor the best treatment for it. So what they do is they give you a medication to drug the symptoms, but they never really can fix it because they don't know what's causing it. So it's a wear and tear on the joint, and I'm going to go into some points here in a few minutes about it. But realize that arthritis causes pain, and America uses 80% of all the pain meds in the world. We're only 4% of the world population. We use 80% of all the opioids in the world. That's really incredible. We are so hell-bent on covering up symptoms. We don't want to feel a thing. We want to be numb, not only physically, but mentally. We've been taught you can't be depressed, you can't be anxious, you can't be sad, don't be too happy, just kind of be medium there. An example of this is recently a mega study came out talking about the SSRIs, the selective serotonin reuptake inhibitors that are doled out for depression. And they just, after 20 plus years of doling this stuff out to millions of Americans, the mega study came out and said, hey, look, we knew this stuff wasn't really effective in the first place, but because of one twist of one study, they were able to promote this and give it to the powers that be that didn't have the time to do their own research, and they believed, quote, the science, unquote. And the next thing you know, we're doping millions of Americans, and these selective serotonin uptake inhibitors actually cause damage to your neurons, and they wear out your the neurons. So serotonin is a feel-good transmitter. It's a happy transmitter, neurotransmitter. So when you talk about a selective serotonin reuptake inhibitor, you're saying, if you started listening to me from the beginning of the show, I talked about when I get a thought to move a muscle, that thought goes down from my brain all the way down to my finger, where that finger muscle might be. And then that neuron, that nerve root that comes from my central nervous system, ultimately my brain, has a gap with a capsule around it, and then another nerve on the other side of it, a receiving nerve on the other side. So that signal comes down, a chemical is released from one nerve, goes across a little fluid-based capsule to the other nerve to cause me to have my finger move. When I stop moving my finger, those chemicals are reabsorbed back into the parent, if you will, neuron, the one that brought it about. So serotonin is released from those neurons as well when you're talking about the feel-good mechanism. And so when people are depressed for any type of reason, I mean, you can have a very bad living situation. You can have multiple traumas to your life. You could have been, been taken advantage of. I mean, there's a lot of things that cause people to be depressed or anxious. But to have as a solution to this, to put a chemical in your body that would this is what these things do, this selective serotonin reuptake inhibitors, they cause that nerve in your brain, the signal that goes down to that capsule between two nerves with the chemicals in it, they cause the serotonin to be released from one nerve, the parent nerve, and go across that gap to another and excite that nerve, the second nerve. That exciting causes the feeling that serotonin brings about, which is, pleasure and happiness. So, and then when that thing goes away, that stimulus that might make you laugh or feel good or being loved by somebody or something along that line passes, that serotonin will be absorbed back into that will be absorbed back into the parent neuron. Mayanna, go to the internet and go to KSCO.com, and you can pick up my live feed. So KSCO.com and pick up my live feed right now. It's streaming live on the internet. So if you can't get this on, I see you're on your internet. It's not working. Well, I'm sorry to hear that. It's nice to see you, my dear lovely cousin up there in Anchorage. So anyway, getting back to this message, so the selective serotonin reuptake inhibitors stop the serotonin from leaving the receiving nerve, and that just irritates and irritates and agitates and irritates the receiving neuron, causing an overstimuli of this happiness serotonin response, and eventually it burns out. The receptor burns out and it no longer works. So by trying to cover up a symptom, because they're certainly not handling the cause of the depression, they used to say it was a chemical imbalance up until earlier this year, and I did a show on it, that they came out that said it is not a chemical imbalance. Sure, it unbalances the chemicals, but that's a symptom of what's going on emotionally. So using those, disrupting those patterns with medication, whether it's for pain, whether it's for some type of emotional thing, or and I'll go into some other side on the other stuff on the other side of this break, but it's bypassing your body's amazing ability to heal itself. And now there are things that get in its way. There's 3 different things that can get in the way of your body functioning well and operating well. And I will go into those on the other side of this break. And I'll see you in just a second. Thank you, and hang in there.
Hi, this is Dr. Duncan McCollum, and I have this amazing patient, Gayleen, here, who walked into our office, barely walked into our office.
Hardly able to walk and bent over. And within 3 visits, I was standing up straight, walking. I couldn't believe it. That's never happened to me before. It's been a very rough road, but we're getting there, and I'm very grateful.
And you had 2 back surgeries as well, right?
Yes, I did. Yeah, in 1995. Yeah.
And so they didn't really solve your problem.
No, they didn't.
And you came in, we did some stem cell treatments on you and some chiropractic on you, right?
Correct.
Yeah. So you're happy.
I'm happy. Everyone here is just awesome. They're all here to help you. They're all so sweet.
You should listen to Gayleen, see if we can help your health.
That's right. Anyone that needs help, please come in.
Thank you. This is Dr. Duncan McCollum here, and I have Pastor Mark with me. He came in and experienced the stem cell machine, the TRT machine, and he wanted to just go ahead and tell you a little bit of his experience. Yeah, I injured my knee years ago from sports and being dumb, and after the first stem cell treatment, after the very first one, I could do a full knee squat, and doctors told me that we want to replace your knee, and my knee would just ache just from sitting, and you probably experienced that if you have knee problems, but now, no ache, I can walk without pain, and when I sit, I have no pain, and I just love it. I'd recommend it to anybody. It's terrific. When we looked at your x-rays, and your knees look pretty good, too. Yeah, they're improving so much. I just love it. I can't wait for my treatment every week. Highly recommend it to anyone. So you'd recommend they do the $49 special to see if it will work for them? Oh, absolutely. That's what drew me in with the $49 special. I thought, I got $50 to spend to just see, and it certainly has paid off. Call 831-459-9990. Thanks.
You will see it will make a better road. You search and you reach down inside, and you'll know when you find there's a light you can't hide. You can be free. You can be free. You can fly.
Hello, everybody. Dr. Duncan McCollum back. Great song by my good friend Steve Funderburg, sung by Tony Lindsay. You can be free. We can be free. And you can. You know, you just need to get the information necessary to make good decisions. We have not been given information when it comes to our health. We've been inundated with commercials. 1 out of 3 or 2 out of 3 TV commercials talks about some drug covering up symptoms, however, not handling the cause, and the side effects of which are scarier than the worst imaginable horror movie you could ever talk about. And people take these. It's unbelievable to me, but I do understand desperation. I've been there myself. When you are so desperate or so beaten down, so tired, your body's just failing you, you fear it. There's nothing to fear but fear itself. But when your body is failing you, you want to do something about it. And if you don't have good choices, you're going to take the best one that you can see, and sometimes it's a quick fix. And I understand that, but don't continue to do that. I wouldn't recommend continuing to do that quick fix if there are better solutions out there. And that's why I'm on the show, because I want you to know your body is amazing. It has an amazing power to heal itself. You just have to remove the distractions. Now, we're talking about inflammation in joints before the break. I was talking about osteoarthritis, the most common arthritis there is. So many of you have probably been labeled with that, thinking you have to live with it. And also we were talking about depression for a minute, and serotonin, selective serotonin reuptake inhibitors, drugs like Prozac and such, and how they were really not, they really didn't do what they were supposed to do, yet it took 20 years for us to figure it out at the sacrifice of many and the profit of a few. So, and the more we understand the education of, or understand our own health and our healthcare and our situations, the better off we'll be. So the stem cell machine, the TRT machine that they talked about, Gayleen and Pastor Mark talked about, what it does is it works on the inflammatory process that's going on in your body, the damaged tissue, the scar tissue of old injuries, or the ongoing inflammatory process that's unhandleable today. And it's a new technology. It's a sound technology. It comes from Germany. It's the sound comes out of the head of this thing at 3,358 miles an hour. And it's what's called a lithotripsy machine. Litho means bone and tripsy means breaking. So they use it for kidney stones. They use this sound machine called lithotripsy to break kidney stones up so they could pass through your urinary tract and out of your body rather than having to do surgery. So a few years ago, some guys started playing around with it, and they figured out if they put a broader beam on it, it's like rather than a very focused pin dot, they broadened the beam out. They could use it on other areas of the body, and they found just amazing results. First thing it will do is it will find an area of damaged tissue, and by running the machine over it, it will actually tell the brain, hey, this thing never healed right. It will create, on anytime you have a injury that occurs, there's an injury process that occurs. There's first some inflammation for 1 to 10 days. That's like if you slam your finger in a door, it's going to be inflamed for 1 to 10 days. Then within 1 to 30 days, your body's putting in a lot of its own made chemicals and new stem cells and fibrin to plug up the holes and all these things to patch it up and then eat up the inflammation. And sometimes this doesn't get to heal right, so you get a lot of scar tissue in there that makes that area inflexible, and a lot of times nerves get healed into that scar tissue, and it becomes a very chronic, painful thing. Even in the old days when they used to do a surgery like appendicitis, they had you lay in bed and heal in bed. Now they get you up walking as soon as they can because they don't want that inflamed process to cause all of the organs to stick together inside your body and cause something called adhesions. So at any rate, that's the TRT machine that they were talking about. And in this subject of symptomatology and desperation to make a change, and diagnoses such as osteoarthritis, which you're told, you can't change or you can't fix, or it's going to progress, and we don't really know why it's there, and we don't know how to stop it or what to do about it, but we can replace a joint eventually. There is a lot of hope. Now, this machine is a good start, and we have amazing results with it, most of the time, well over 90% of the time. Nothing works 100% of the time. But it's really amazing at changing people's lives around. Pastor Mark was talking about his knee. I had a gentleman come in this week who's a painting contractor, and he'd been doing it for 30 or 40 years. And his knee was he couldn't bend down on it at all. And he's still working in the field. And he's just miserable. And a very nice guy. And he said, I went to 2 surgeons. And both of those surgeons said that, well, we don't want to replace it yet. You're just going to have to live with it until it's time to be replaced. And, he was under the impression that there was nothing he could do about it. Well, I took an x-ray of both knees, and quite honestly, just like probably 80% of the people that come in and say my knees are bone on bone, it was not bone on bone. I pulled in another doctor in my office, and I asked Dr. Joe, I said, Dr. Joe, which one of these 2 knees do you think the guy's having a problem with? He goes, they both look the same to me. I go, yeah, there's plenty of disc in there. You could drive a truck through that meniscus. So we did a treatment on him. He seemed to think it was better. We'll see him Monday, and hopefully it will be. Hopefully we'll have a solution for him because he's too young to get a knee replacement. The surgeon said it would last, because of his frame and lifestyle and what he does for a living, it could maybe last 7 years, and he's way too young to have 3 or 4 knee replacements in his lifetime. So anyway, inflammation is something that we can do a lot to help. And when we're talking about osteoarthritis, which is the #1 arthritis named on the planet today, we're talking about a joint that is inflamed. Now, what can cause this? Earlier in the show, I was talking about the body's incredibly unique ability to survive under the most absurd circumstances. And as an example I often give is a weed growing out of a crack in cement. You pull that weed and it grows out of that crack again. And or you see a tree up in the Sierras that's growing out of a split rock. That seed managed to sit on top of the rock and find a little nook. And as water hit that seed, a little root started to climb down into that rock, and pretty soon that big root cracked the boulder in half, the size of a house in half, because life has that great desire to be, and it will overcome many obstacles to be there. Now, some of the problems that cause the inflammation in our body today is the fact that we live in the most toxic time in our world. Perhaps earlier in the destruction and extinction of the dinosaurs, there was other incredibly toxic times, but that was millions of years ago. And our planet has evolved, and we've evolved over the last 100 years to the point where we've created 78,000 man-made chemicals and toxins, and that our bodies have never been able to adapt to in our lifetime. During evolution of a planet, as the planet changes, all of the organisms have a chance to, over generations, mutate along with that planet. If you take a look at, the migration of the Homo sapiens from the one center of the planet to covering the whole planet, and you take a look at the differentiation of one skin type to another skin type, or one body type to another body type, depending on what their environment was asking them to be able to survive in. So now, all of a sudden, in the last 100 years, we've dumped in 78,000 chemicals, many of them very toxic. We've exposed ourselves to horrendous amounts of lead and mercury, arsenic, aluminum, then glyphosate, which is just like the worst thing on the planet as far as a man-made chemical. That's Roundup that you're spraying on your yard, because it basically gets into your bloodstream and it opens up something called the blood-brain barrier. And it also disrupts the neurotransmitters that I've been talking about earlier in the show, and gets them to not be able to function well. It allows the accumulation of further toxins of all types into tissues of the body. So we have lead and mercury that comes down 4 generations through mom's umbilical blood. So if your great grandfather was a gold miner, well, they used mercury to extract the gold from the quartz ore. And so at that point, it was usually the man that worked would come home, and the woman in the house, the female, would do the laundry. Well, she would get exposed to all that mercury as well, coming out of his clothes. So then that mercury gets in her bloodstream, gets passed down through her umbilical blood as a new fetus is developing. And this goes on and on. Each lifetime you add not only what you inherited from your mother, but whatever you've accumulated this lifetime based on where you've been. So we end up with such a huge accumulation of toxins that a lot of it comes down to the luck of your heritage, what your genetic strength is. And between 2 siblings, one could be incredibly weak and sickly, and the other can have no problem at all. But that's like, the luck of the draw. So sure, the luck of the draw is there, but you can hedge your bet. You can hedge your bet by becoming more educated about what you're putting in your body, on your body, through your body, what you're exposing it to. So I highly recommend that anybody who's listening to the show really take a look at what you're eating, for one. All grains made in this country are saturated with glyphosate. Those big companies that make glyphosate, Monsanto and such, own the rights to most of the seeds, and they have actually implanted a gene inside the seeds that will make those plants immune to the glyphosate. So then when the plant is growing, foods we eat, and it's time to harvest it, they can spray the field with glyphosate and everything dries up except for the plant that has the immunity to it. So it makes it a lot more profitable and easier to get those foods. But these foods have become, at best, toxins or poisons to our body. And, the more and more we accumulate this, sometimes our livers work pretty good, sometimes they don't. Sometimes your liver works, sometimes it just quivers, and then sometimes it quits. So again, I use the example of a vacuum cleaner very often. If your liver acted like the spongy filter in your vacuum cleaner, and as long as you clean that out every time you vacuum, you'd have a pretty clean house. But our livers are so inundated with toxins that they cannot do the job that they're supposed to do anymore. And not only that, the nerves in your back, and we talked about the synapse that's coming out of your brain down through the center of your spine, exiting your spine, going to every cell, organ, and tissue in your body. So you have those nerves coming out of your back, and then those roots go close to the organ, and then a new nerve goes to the organ. And there's that synapse in there, or there's that end of one nerve and the beginning of another with a little capsule full of fluid around it. And that signal from your liver sends a message to the brain through that fluid and up the spinal canal and says, we got a problem. You know, Houston, there's a problem. We got a toxin we don't even know anything about. The brain turns on red alert, sirens go off, a signal comes back down through the spine, center of the spine, finds the correct two vertebrae to come out of, comes out of there, sends a signal down that nerve to that junction, which again is a fluid-filled sac that one nerve sends out a chemical to the receiving nerve and goes to the organ and tells it, well, do whatever you can to detoxify this thing. And our livers work pretty well. But what's happened is the accumulation of toxins, heavy metals, molds, and hidden infections in our body over our lifetime and passed down through our mother's lifetimes have caused these organs to quit working as well. So here we have this amazing body. Egg and a sperm comes together within 8 days. You have a, looks like a frog, bunch of frog eggs in a pond. Day 18, these, the first thing that you notice under a light microscope is a streak that comes down. And then there's a bulb that looks like a lollipop, and that's the brain and central nervous system. Then you'll start to see these little strings come off of that lollipop stick, and those are the 31 spinal nerves. And then as those grow and divide and grow and divide, soon you see the development of little buds on the ends of these nerves, and those are fingers, joints, organs, hearts, lungs, kidneys, livers, adrenal glands, legs, feet, everything. And all of this is controlled by the nervous system through the genetic DNA blueprint of what you and I are supposed to be. And then there's the essence of life itself that is directing all this. And so why are we where we are today? How did we get here? So we're going to go to my second commercial break here. We're going to go to my break, David. And when we come back, we'll wrap all this up, and hopefully you guys will decide to do something different for your health. And of course, at my office, McCollum Family Chiropractic in Capitola, you can definitely come in and ask for a consultation and do the $49 special. We'll sit down and find out whether or not ours is a place that can help you, and or if I need to refer you to somebody else. I'll be back in just a couple minutes. Thank you so much.
Hey, this is Dr. Duncan McCollum, and I have this amazing patient, Lauren, here, and she had a few things to say.
Hi, I'm Lauren Spencer, a local realtor, and I've been seeing Duncan for years now. I had a biking accident, and he's been adjusting me since then, and it's been amazing. But lately, I've had trouble with my feet, and I'm an avid walker, avid biker, avid golfer, and my feet were aching all the time. And I tried Duncan's TRT machine, which is an amazing stem cell machine that rejuvenates the cells. And my feet, I've had like 3 or 4 sessions with the machine, and my feet are like new, no aches, no pains. It's a miracle. So I really highly recommend Duncan and his chiropractic services, but also that TRT machine. You got to try it.
Wow, thanks, Lauren. That was awesome. So we still have the $49 special. Come on in and see if it works for you. Thank you. This is Dr. Duncan McCollum, and I would like you to listen to a couple testimonials from my patients about our new TRT machine. You should come try it, but here's what they have to say.
The year
And 2 months ago, I got knocked down by a horse and I got a grade 2 pull on my hamstring. And from there, everything went to hell. I was walking 3.5 miles a day. I went from that to walking less and less because it was so painful and my other knee started hurting me. And then I stepped off a ladder and jammed my knee. It took me the next morning 5 minutes by the time I stood up to get out of my bed. It was so painful. At the same time, I found out about the TRT doc, and I knew that that was for me. So almost feeling completely normal. So it's been great. I was walking stiff-kneed on one side because it was just flopping out of place. Now I can bend my knee and walk. I totally recommend this one time, and you'll just go, whoa. You don't realize how much you use your toes for balance until there's no feeling. And so I've got the feeling back in my toes, and my balance is greatly improved. Definitely recommend it.
So call today for your $49 introductory special on the TRT machine to see if it works for you. Call 831-459-9990. 831-459-9990. McCollum Family Chiropractic.
Wow. Just try to remember the strength that we find. Oh, yeah. We can be free. We can be free. We can rise above. We can be free.
Hello, everybody. This is Dr. Duncan McCollum. I'm back for the last segment of the show. Appreciate y'all tuning in. It's nice listening to Gary and Noel and Lauren talk about their experience with the stem cell machine. All these people that are talking on the show are on wellness maintenance of their injuries, which makes a lot of sense. Don't wait till something happens. So often I get people that come in and they go, well, I'm in pain. I want to get adjusted and get out of pain. I go, well, it's really not about the pain. It's about function, getting your body working right. Well, I just want to come in when I'm in pain. And, you know, I understand that. I've been there myself, but what I've found is that it's not going to create the longevity of your body that you probably want. And so usually I would recommend that there's chiropractors out there that specialize in pain relief. I specialize in corrective care and longevity. And it's much more difficult to adjust people that come in only wanting to get out of pain. It's much more pleasant to have them come in on a regular basis and say, hey, I'm feeling great. Can you keep me that way? Hey, I'm feeling great. Can you keep me that way? I have 2 doctors in my office besides myself, and you know, they've been with us for a little while, but they're seeing the benefits of having somebody come in, happy to be there, getting a tune-up, getting a checkup, versus crawling in and crawling out because they wait too long. Anyway, that's my spiel on staying healthy. I want to go back to talk a bit about the serotonin reuptake inhibitors and the depression that these drugs like Prozac were supposed to help for all those years. When the study came out, been a couple months, I did a show with Reverend Fred Shaw, who is a commissioner for the Citizens Commission on Human Rights. He's also president of the NAACP in Compton. He works with a lot of people that have had pretty rough lives, and many of them have been subjected to the medication versus potential lifestyle changes, and everybody needs a hand up. It's really nice to be able to meet and talk with people that have been doing that for the last 20 to 30 years. But he got on the show, and as representing the Citizens Commission on Human Rights, you can find this on my on my YouTube channel. By the way, if you go to Dr. Duncan McCollum YouTube, you'll be able to find most of my shows. I video all of them, and we put them up there. It usually takes a week or so or a couple days to get them up there. They're also all put on my Spotify or Apple account, my McCollum Wellness Radio account. So you're welcome to go there. You know, November is the month of Thanksgiving. And, you know, our office is predominantly referral. I have a lot of my listeners refer their family and friends in, and I really appreciate that because we are able to help them or point them in the right direction. Some people come in and they're not ready to make that change yet, but they're looking for information. We always do our best to give them the information that they seek and let them make the decision to do what they will. So what we're doing in November, of course, we're keeping our $49 special open for the stem cell treatment. This includes a complete or a thorough consultation where I sit down and go over what's been going on in your life. And we're talking about physically. Did you play sports growing up? Have you had accidents? How was your birth trip down the birth canal, or were you cesarean pulled out the other way? What kind of injuries have you had work-wise? What kind of repetitive traumas? Oftentimes people go, oh, well, I was in a car accident, but that was 30 years ago. Well, there you go. Osteoarthritis. We started the show talking about the degenerative breakdown of this tissue due to improper function or improper motion. And so there's the physical trauma, there's the chemical trauma, which I've gone into. The toxicity in our environment can cause terrible damage to every life function in our body. And it's going to pick out the weakest one. You know, it's just like a bully. It's going to find the weakest one to pick on, and it's going to start to damage that tissue. And all you need is one organ to fail for your life to go south very quickly. So let's find that weak organ and get it moving. Now, one thing people are surprised about is every organ in your body has a nerve telling it what to do. And as I've been reading more and more, studying so that I can take a very complex subject and make it understandable in my book, New Hope for Being Over 60, and the subject I'll make it clear in probably a couple months. But what I'm wanting to do is take a very complex subject, which is a body made up of 75 trillion cells, each cell doing 260 million functions a minute, all controlled by the brain, and all of the synapses and chemical processes that occur in a nanosecond is unfathomable, incredibly interesting if you like that stuff, which I do. But you don't need to know all of that. What you need to know is a practical way to walk down a path that is not walked very often in this country. Why? Because the path most walk has taken us down to be 47th in the world for health. We take 70% of all the drugs made in the world. We are only 4% of the population. We take 80% of all the opioids in the world. And 60% of us are diabetic or pre-diabetic. We're the most obese country in the world out of all industrialized nations. So, you know, if it ain't broke, don't fix it. So if you're happy with the results, don't fix it. You know, if you're not happy with what you're facing, then do what Robert Frost suggests and take the path less traveled by, and it could make all the difference. And we're here to help you walk that path, make the shift. Love to meet you and talk to you about what you might do to improve your health. And, you know, it all starts with a decision. That decision is only you can make it. You know, it's so hard, so often to see friends and family members, and people probably even think this about me, who are doing something that are non-optimum in their life, and you try to tell them and try to tell them, and they just can't see it, don't get it, won't listen, or what have you. And I have a plaque in my office that says, it's so hard to watch somebody drowning in 3 feet of water when all they have to do is stand up. But getting people to stand up is the hard part. It takes a lot of love, a lot of patience, a lot of consideration, and knowing the right information so that you can potentially give them something to grasp onto so that they can make a change in their life, change in their health. so often it comes down to your goals, what it is that you want to do. So often when people come in, I had a woman come in last week. We have several new patients a week. Again, most of them are referral. Oftentimes it could take you a week to get in or more, but we always try to keep the emergency slot open. So if you know anybody that's in an emergency, they can, usually we can work them in that day or the next day. But we understand that we'll do our best to work around the patients that have scheduled, but we don't want anybody making bad decisions and doing something radically too quick that couldn't be reversed. So just know we're there for you. The show's fun to do. I come in here and I just start talking. So often I have maybe a thought and I take my whole show off of it because I know that somebody out there is needing to hear what I say, and those that don't turn me off. But hopefully this is making sense to somebody out there. And if one person has heard this message and can come into my office or go to some other healthcare provider that's naturally oriented, then my time is well spent. So Thanksgiving month, what you can do to help others is let them know about my office, let them know about my show, let them know about the $49 special, let them know about my McCollum Wellness Radio podcast, Dr. Duncan McCollum YouTube, my Facebook page where I broadcast these live. And then, of course, the YouTube is my Zoom recordings that I do, so everybody can be able to listen and or send them to somebody that they care about. So we have just a few minutes left. I want to appreciate Michael Zwerling and KSCO for allowing for this station to stay open. Just like all businesses, there's struggling times. We're looking at a time of recession or massive inflation or whatever you want to call it. But what I ask is that if you really enjoy this show, call up and make a donation to KSCO. This is unsolicited by them. It's just me. They don't, I do my own show. I sponsor my own show, but there's a lot of people here that depend on you listeners to help them. So it would be great for you to help us help you further by doing what you can to make sure this free speech radio station stays free and out of the hands of some corporation. So anyway, Dr. Duncan McCollum here. I'm talking today about what your amazing immune system can do, your nervous system, the amount of synapses. I think there's 47 miles of nerve in your body. So every human grown-up body has 47 miles of nerves. They connect together in a multitude of times. And between the connection of each two nerves is a sac filled with fluid. And when an impulse goes down one nerve, it has to send a chemical messenger from the end of one nerve to the beginning of the next nerve. And that depends on chemicals made by healthy nutrition that we get in our body. We need to make sure that we're eating healthy food, not dead food. Very little of the food that you get that's processed anymore has any value to it. You might as well be eating cardboard. If you have, sure you've heard about the people that found one of those fast food hamburgers in their coat pocket a year later, and it was still looked like the day they got it. They could have heated it up in the microwave and ate it. Our bodies are so amazing at recycling the materials. So as we're digesting food, as we're breaking down our old cells, which happens every nanosecond, those cells that do 60 million things a minute are composed of billions of particles and nutrients, vitamins, minerals, fatty acids, proteins, and your body will recycle them. So it doesn't throw everything in the garbage can like we used to do in the 70s, and it doesn't end up in the bay like when I grew up. We just go down to the bay there in Oakland and open the tailgate and throw it all out in the bay. And it was really kind of a weird thing. But your body's smarter than that. It doesn't throw the baby out with the bathwater. What it does is it reabsorbs and reuses every vitamin, mineral, and chemical that it can to sustain life. So when you are, so many people are starving in a they can be incredibly overweight, but their body is starving at the same time. It's devoid and it's starving from the essential nutrients that it needs to survive. So the body puts out a signal, eat more, eat more, eat more, because it needs to get those nutrients, and you're eating substances that don't have them. However, you will put on the weight from the mass that you're consuming, but you're still not getting the needed minerals. So your body is going to continue on this cycle. That's one of the reasons that we're rated 47 from the World for Health. Besides the marketing and mass marketing of sugar, back in the 1900s, the average person ate 7 pounds of sugar a year, most of that through the food they ate. Today, it's over 220 pounds of sugar that we consume each year. That's a lot of sugar, and it is disguised in the fast foods you eat, the processed foods you eat. You go to a restaurant and they put sugar in there to make it taste good. And then they put in artificial flavors in there, artificial vitamins, man-made vitamins that aren't even complete. And there's so much to do. Anyway, we're running out of time. Thank you for being here today and listening. Please spread the word. Please tell your friends to come see me, especially if their quality of life isn't where you think it should be for them, or maybe for you. Give us a call, McCollum Family Chiropractic, 831-459-9990. Find us at McCollumWellness.com. Email me at info@McCollumFamilyChiropractic.com. I will be here next week, and we'll talk about whatever's on my mind then. If you want some information and you want me to talk about something, just let me know, and I'll see if I can work it into the show. Do that by email. We're going out with You Can Be Free.
Rise above. We will rise above. We will rise above. Yeah. We will rise above.
Good. Yeah.